I think you're right that, when I personally read anti-LGBTQ violence and lynching, when I read anti-LGBTQ violence, I pictured white people, which I think speaks to your point about the way that LGBTQ is read as white by so many of us, kind of by rote, right? And I think that this connection to lynching became very apparent and important throughout, because, if we think about the way that violence, so much of society is built on an anti-Blackness, it must be true that the violence experienced by Black people at any point in history informs and helps shape a violence that other people experience now.
Mm-hmm. And I think the perfect example of what you mean is the way that so often the best way for you to denigrate someone else is to somehow approximate them to Black people, whether
Mm.
it's in terms of how they speak or how they dress. Like that is one of the best ways to insult someone. It's not so different from, the way that you can insult someone by suggesting that they're somehow approximating womanhood or femininity. So in that way, I think I see exactly what you're talking about. But I think the other thing you have me thinking about, Josh, is the way that part of what I'm trying to trace in seeing the similarities between lynching and anti-LGBT violence is really putting attention on what and who gets license to do all kinds of things, right? So it's not just who's excluded, but who's licensed to operate in whatever way they want to operate. Who gets the license to do that? And so to my mind, the way that, even schools give license only to people who are considered straight or considered, operating according to the gender expression that we expect, right? Those are the people who have license, and anything they do against someone who doesn't conform in those ways is somehow okay. And so that's part of what I wanted us to recognize is the violence that's baked into who gets room to move however they want to move.
So are you saying then that who has license to punish is who the citizen is, right? That both lynching and anti-LGBTQ violence confirm or reify the bounds of citizenship?
Absolutely. Like part of what I wanted us to recognize is that if you are read as straight and you accuse someone who's not read as straight of something, or you do something to them, that always the way that our most common words and deeds, our most common discourses and practices are already set up to justify you and give you license. And so I was invested in us recognizing that as part of the violence that is baked into how our cultures work, right? When it comes to Black people, if something racist is said in a Black person's presence, everyone gets laser focused on how that Black person reacted. Were they dignified? Were they angry? Whatever. That becomes far more important than the actual racist thing that was said to them, because everything is set up to make sure that the microscope is on them, and that we're actually not looking at the aggression from white people, because white people can't be held to a standard of, I don't know, decency. They should just be able to say, well, I didn't mean it that way, and it's supposed to disappear. And then you're the angry Black person if you don't just let it disappear. So I wanted us to recognize, like, these are our most common words and deeds. These are our most common discourses and practices that shape the spaces we're in. Notice how much aggression is baked into the most common responses in these situations. And that will tell us who is considered belonging and who is not. And that helps us understand the real function of violence, whether it's physical or discursive.